And even if you have a lot of time, time is still short. There's no such thing as a lot of time in a life as short as ours. Time with your family and friends can drag on like a week. It might feel like it's long, but it's really short in reality. But even just loving a person can be enough. Or loving a thing can be enough. Even if they don't love you back, because the fact that you can give love says a lot about you as a person, man. Because there's a lot of people who are just incapable of giving love. And I'm sure a lot of you know people like this. Some of you probably suspect that you're around people like this. But the fact that you can do this speaks very highly about you. Especially if you can continue to love somebody that doesn't love you back. And you can still show these things towards a person who doesn't show them back. It's a mark of strength. It's easy to laugh and it's easy to hate. These are things that we do naturally. But it takes strength to be gentle and kind. And we might think like, yeah, but then they're going to be mean to me. Who cares? That's about them. That's not about you. You let other people determine how you behave. You let other people determine how you act. You let other people shape your character, or you're going to shape your own character. Determine who you want to be. Determine what you want to be. And then do that thing. You've probably heard that saying before, dress for the job that you want, then behave as the person you want to be. What if I don't feel it? Do it anyway. Are you a person who wants to demonstrate these characteristics, or are you a person who wants to feel them? Hopefully both, but at the very least you can do them. How many of us feel like being honest all the time? Still gotta do it though, whether you feel like it or not. These are all actions. These are not just feelings. That tells us that love is an action. It's an emotion as well. And it's easier to do if you have an emotion. Math is a lot easier to do if you love math, if you enjoy it. But does that mean you only do it if you enjoy it? No, we do things because they're the right things to do.
Something that gave you happiness. If you don't have happiness but you have love, then what is love?
I don't know. What is love?
What is
Questions, comments, concerns?
He's considering ending it all.
That's where it all ends, right there. He's going to start singing that song. Well, this is part of the point. This is a big part of the point that he's getting at here. Without singing the song, what is love? It's not a trick question, by the way. Yeah.
I consider it to also be like patience, virtue, some sort of like a few things. I can't name them all because I forgot, but those are the ones that really mean a lot to me.
Patience, virtue. Now,
Honesty.
what's that?
Honesty.
Honesty. Now, these are all expressions of love. In other words, if you love somebody, these are ways that you express it. Now, does that mean that if you love someone, you're not patient with them? No, you can be impatient with people. You can once in a while be unvirtuous. You can once in a while be dishonest and still love a person. And people will say that all the time, like, "Oh, you don't even love me because you're not, being honest with me." Well, no, it's tough to be honest with people you love because you want them to love you back. And if you have a concern that people aren't going to love you back for who you really are, it's difficult to be honest with them. Of course, you get loved when you are honest with somebody, they receive it, then they accept you as you are. But there's that fear of, what if we don't get accepted as we are? What if they know this one terrible thing about me? They won't love me anymore. So these are all expressions of love. I guess if we were going to ask the question, like, what is this thing itself, though? In other words, like, if I ask you what's a cold, a cold is when you're sneezing, you're coughing, whatever. Yeah, those are symptoms of it, though. What's the thing itself? Well, it's a viral infection. Okay. And then we can be more specific from there, obviously. But I guess I'm asking, like, what is this thing love? Now, we don't have to go too deeply into it. We can just kind of accept that we all have a concept of what it means. But these are the expressions of it. Now, can you express these things towards somebody and not get them back?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when you love somebody and they don't love you back. Okay. So far, so good? Okay. Others? Yeah. Is it possible that the way that they're expressing love towards you is just not the way you express love? The way we think we would? In other words, we say that if you love a person, you support them unconditionally. We say that all the time. We go, yeah, that's right. You should support the people you love. So if you guys went to, let's say, your best friend, and you said, really thinking about slashing my wrists and laying down in a warm bathtub, would your best friend say, I support you? Whatever you would do would make me happy. No, your best friend would rightfully step in and say, no, don't do that. They would tell someone, they would call for help. In other words, they would step in and try to stop you from doing this thing that they know would obviously be fatal for you, much less, obviously harmful towards you. And so sometimes we have to kind of step back and consider if the people who we love and who we say love us, or we believe love us, that what they're doing is some form of expression of love. And so, and I don't know your situation. I'm just kind of thinking about it out loud. That sometimes the things that we think of, like, oh my God, like they yell at me because my room isn't clean. Why do they care if my room is clean? Why do they care if your room is clean?
It tells me that they don't really care if it's clean or not. They just care about the responsibility that I'm doing for that thing.
Yeah, because in their mind, they might be teaching you a sense of responsibility for keeping things clean. Why does it matter that things are kept clean? Because when you go out into the world, you're going to have to keep things clean. And it's not so much about the cleanliness of your room as it is about the adoption of a responsibility for taking care of that one space that's part of that you have control over. Like I tell people, if you're looking for a way to get control of your life, if you feel like your life is spinning and you need direction, the first thing I'll tell you to do, anybody remember? Clean your room. Yeah, clean your room. Why? Because your room is the one thing that you have control over. Well, I don't have my own room. Okay, clean your backpack. Take something that you have control over, the one thing in your life that you actually have control over, and exercise your control over that by keeping it in order. Because chaos is the thing that leads to all kinds of horrible outcomes, resentment, contempt, lack of control over our lives. Chaos is probably the greatest enemy of your life, whether you realize it or not. And so what do you do with chaos? Well, you take it and you put it into order. That's taking control of your life. And so if your backpack is the only thing in your life that you have control over, then take radical control over your backpack. Because once you show that you can control something so small, now what else can you control? Maybe at that point you can start to control your room. Oh, but I share my room with my brother or whatever. Okay, but you have control over your part of the room. Yeah, but he throws stuff everywhere. So what do? Well, you take care of that as well. Oh, but it's him. Stop. How do you expect to control a family someday if you can't take control of your own room with your brother? How do you expect to step forward and become, like you want to become somebody who's involved in your community? You think it's harder to control your own bedroom than it is to control the whole community? With lots and lots of people who are doing stuff to tear it down and bring it into chaos? Oh, well, I don't even have my own room. I sleep in the living room. Great. Where do you sleep? On the couch? Take radical control over that couch. Whatever it is that you have control over in your life, practice it. Because if you can't be responsible in the little things, no, better yet, how about this? If you can be responsible in those little things, that gives you a good reason to believe that now you can be responsible in the larger things. Now the problem might be we don't explain that. We just say, God, go clean your room. Why? Because it's a goddamn mess, that's why. Well, what do you care? Maybe it's because we don't explain why we care about those things. And that's kind of largely, there's a lot of areas in life like that. Like, then you guys taking algebra, for example? What's the purpose of algebra? Anybody? Solve math equations, yeah, but why?
Understand. You could probably lead to another future. Better future.
Yeah, that's always the go-to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leads to a better future.
At least.
Why do we study English language arts? A better future.
Yeah.
Why do we study chemistry? If you think about it, better future. When we don't know what to say, that's just what we say. I guess what we're programmed to say. But genuinely, like, why study algebra? What's the point of this? If you don't know why you're doing it, if we just say, do it. Oh, why? When am I ever going to need this? How often do you have that explained to you why you're going to need this stuff? In fact, better yet, how often do you ask? Why do we need to know this? And I don't mean like, why do we need to know this stuff? I mean like, why do we need to know this? How is this going to be helpful? Because now if you understand how things are going to be helpful, well, now you can apply it in real life. Now you can find a way to apply it. But if you don't know, if you have a screwdriver and you don't know the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead, and if you don't ever see these things out in the world, you'll never know what to do with this one tool. You'll just be like, why do I even need this? Oh, because it's used for all kinds of things. Like what? You'll get it when you're older. So what do you do with it now? I guess I'll pick it up when I'm older. But the problem is that when you're older and you need the screwdriver, you'll be like, oh my God, that tool that I had access to 2 years ago, I don't have access to it right now. And that's even if you realize that you need it at that point. That's part of the problem with education and with learning things like algebra or chemistry or English language arts. You won't even realize that you need it in a situation because you won't even realize that that could have been a possible solution to this problem here. In other words, we're limited in our problem solving to the things that we have immediate access to. Because, well, stop me if you've heard this before, you don't know what you don't know. And so if you don't know that, wow, algebra could have been helpful here. If you don't know what the purpose of algebra is, you won't realize it could have been helpful here. If you don't know why we do these journal entries, if you think that the purpose of this is just to talk, then you're missing a lot. And I have explained it before, why we do these things. I wonder how many of us remember why. And if you don't see a purpose for it, well then of course you don't put yourself into like any class. And I get that. This is why like when I see so many students failing, I'm not out here wagging my finger at you. You guys are... No, I get it. You don't see why you need it. You don't see why you need it. And I understand it, by the way. You're also surrounded by a culture that's constantly telling you that you don't need the stuff that you can learn in school. And so I get it. It's unfortunate. It's heartbreaking to a sense because that means that you're not going to have access to thinking that could actually improve your life in dramatic ways. But then again, I also see how many of you guys come in, I mean, don't raise your hands, but I wonder how many of you guys have teachers who seem like they absolutely hate their lives. You know, and they come in and they complain about it. And I talk to students, and students will be like, oh man, Scanlon, you must hate your job. Why? Because you deal with kids all day. That'd be like saying, I hate my job at McDonald's because I deal with burgers all day. You know? It's like I kind of took the job knowing that you take it specifically because you love cheeseburgers. You know, you take this job specifically because you know what you're going in for. But anyway, if you have teachers who are coming in like, shut up, put yourself, oh my God. How many of you look at that teacher and go, I'm going to be like that someday. So what did you do in life that got you to this point right now where you're hating your job? Which, if we're being honest, by the way, is a job that most of us as teachers are overpaid for. We work 181 days out of the year. We have absolute job security. It's damn near impossible to fire. We have to commit a felony to fire us. We have almost no accountability. I mean, if you're a slacker and you're looking for a job, there's almost no better job that you can get than this. And yet, despite all of these protections and luxuries, so many of us are still bitter and angry and resentful and contemptful towards our students. And yet, we also sit there and go, damn it, stop doing what you're doing and be more like me. Okay. See a reason for it. If you see a purpose for it, that's what it takes. And so whatever you're doing, especially if it's something that you kind of have to do. You know, for being honest, you don't have to do anything. Like, I don't have to do anything except for stay white and die. Everything after that is a choice. But if you're somewhere and you're choosing to put yourself somewhere, and by the way, if you recognize it that way, how many of you, don't raise your hands of course, but how many of you could just walk out and leave right now? All of you could. How many of you could just plain not come in the morning? You could just walk away. Or you know, all of us could. So what that means is you've made a choice actively to be here. That should mean something positive for you because at least now you sit down, even if you're like, I don't like this class. But you know what? I did choose to come here today. So yeah, so now there's a positive aspect. I don't mean that in the sense of like, you chose to come here. No, I mean is, you chose to come here. So now it doesn't have to be adversarial. It doesn't have to be that you've been forced to do something. None of you have been forced to do it. What happens if I don't? I'm going to, whatever. Oh, you're going to get Saturday school? Ooh. Some of us want to be home anyway. Then what happens if you come late to Saturday school? Nothing really. And besides that, the consequences for Saturday school or for ditching is years away anyway. And they're probably never even going to manifest anyway. This year, for the seniors, they eliminated all their tardies and absences at the beginning of the year. They reset their attendance. So that means that all of their tardies, all their truancies, so for the 3 years leading up to it, meant absolutely nothing. They'll probably continue. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue doing that. So there's really no incentive not to do that, except for the incentive that's inside of you. And so you can choose to come here. If you choose to come here, hopefully that gives you a positive start to it. Well, since I've chosen to be here, what can I get out of this? And what some of you will get out of this is this. You're next to friends. You interact with people. That's good. You're going to have to do that in life. You're going to have to do it responsibly, though. Because if you're at work, you're going to have to get along with people. If you're at work, though, and you're getting along with people by arguing with them and fighting with them, or being distracting, like when the boss is talking and you're being distracting, you're going to get fired. If you're here and the teacher's talking and you're distracting, you're going to get in trouble. So it's a good learning ground for that also, how to be social, but to do it responsibly, naturally, yeah. And then once you're here and you've gotten that part out of it, I don't know, what can we get out of this? What can we get out of the articles that we read? What else can I get out of the class? And if you make the choice to do that, you're going to get something out of it, of course. You will. Others. And even if you have a lot of time, time is still short. There's no such thing as a lot of time, and a life as short as ours. Time with your family and friends can drag on like a week. It might feel like it's long, but it's really short in reality. So I like this thing that we came up with here. Patience, virtue, honesty. That if you love a person, these are the things that you direct towards somebody else. In other words, all of us might have an object of our love. And some of us may have a subject of our love. In other words, maybe you love a class, a subject matter, like chemistry or biology. Maybe you just love that subject. Maybe you love a person. Maybe you love a thing. And maybe the thing that you love is not capable of loving you back in the same way. And so that doesn't mean you shouldn't love the person. Doesn't mean you shouldn't love the thing. But, in other words, this is what Dostoevsky is saying here is that the act of giving love is neat. So where there's love, you can even live without happiness. So if you're loving somebody, you can even do it without being happy. And even if you and that person love one another, yeah, of course, there'd be happiness if it's reciprocal. But even just loving a person can be enough. Or loving a thing can be enough. Even if they don't love you back. Because the fact that you can give love says a lot about you as a person, man. Because there's a lot of people who are just incapable of giving love. And I'm sure a lot of you know people like this. Some of you probably suspect that you're around people like this. They're just not able to do this. But the fact that you can do this speaks very highly about you. Especially if you can continue to love somebody that doesn't love you back. And you can still show these things towards a person who doesn't show them back. It's a mark of strength. It's easy to laugh and it's easy to hate. These are things that we do naturally. But it takes strength to be gentle and kind towards others. And we might think, yeah, but then they're going to be mean to me. Who cares? That's about them. That's not about you. You let other people determine how you behave. You let other people determine how you act. You let other people shape your character, or you're going to shape your own character. If you're constantly, I'm gonna get what I get back. Then you're letting other people shape your character. It's not you who's actually doing it. Determine who you want to be. Determine what you want to be, and then do that thing. You've probably heard that saying before. Dress for the job that you want. You've probably heard that before. Yeah. Yeah. Then behave as the person you want to be. What if I don't feel it? Do it anyway, because then you'll start to feel it. And then I guess the question is, are you a person who wants to demonstrate these characteristics, or are you a person who wants to feel them? Hopefully both, but at the very least you can do them. How many of us feel like being honest all the time? Still got to do it though, whether you feel like it or not. These are all actions. These are not just feelings. That tells us that love is an action. It's an emotion as well. And it's easier to do if you have an emotion. It's just like math is a lot easier to do if you love math, if you enjoy it. But does that mean you only do it if you enjoy it? Do you only drink water because you like the flavor of it? Anybody like the flavor of water? No, we do things because they're the right things to do. You behave this way towards a person, and that speaks a lot about you as a person and your character. Now, if that person doesn't love you back, there's sorrow there. There's misery, it's sadness. Because we want to be loved by the people who love us. Of course, naturally, it's obvious. Of course we want that. But that isn't always a possibility. But you can still love other people. I don't know if there's anybody in your life who you care about deeply, and they don't feel that same way back towards you. I was just talking to someone who I've known for a few years now, and I told him, I know you don't like me. And he's like, oh, it's not like that. I go, yeah, it is kind of like that. I get it. But I said, but you know, man, I love you, bro. And anything you ever need, you reach out to me. I'm here for you. And it was interesting because you could kind of see his face just like completely shift. Like he felt like absolute crap about that because he realized that he hasn't been a friend to me. Now, does that mean he's going to turn around and become a friend? No, I don't think so. I think he'll want to be, but it's just not in him to be this person. It's just not there. You can't force that thing, man. But again, I've known him for a while. I love him. If he ever needs anything, no matter what it is, I'm there for him. But you can't let this shape your character. The reciprocity shape your character. You have to take control over your own character and be your person. Become who you want to be, and that means behaving in the way that you want to behave. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Not dark. Easy.